additive synthesis with Harmonaut. You can download this freeware VST from the homepage of Tone Bytes, the producer of this synth. And a lot of additional information and material to download you can also find on our homepage. On our homepage you will find, for example, the whole tutorial, and you can download it as a PDF file, so please visit us eventually. The GUI itself is quite easy to understand and all in all self-explanatory. So let's have only a short look at it at the beginning, at the basic functions before we go to the synthesis. There is the file management over there, then the global knobs, coarse, fine, porta, pen, nothing special. We have a chorus and an LFO, the filter section, and the envelope section. The envelope needs and is worth a second look at later on in this tutorial. The file management, yeah. When you click in the display with the name of the active preset, you get the list of all presets of the currently loaded patch bank. Here it is, and you see the active preset is hookmarked. It's echoed, the name. Let's change it to DXpiano. Oh, quite nice. Now let's go on and change the sound of it. You don't have to understand right now what I'm doing. I'll explain it later. Just make it sound different. Wow, yeah, it's ugly, but surely different. Okay, so after clicking at the pencil over there, yeah, you can change the name of the patch. Let's do it. Alright. And now let's choose another one. Yeah, space organ is okay. Nice too. Okay, and let's change it as well. So, for example, a single sine wave. Yep. That's okay. And change the name, of course, to space organ changed. And save the bank, the whole bank now. Let's give it a name. Well, okay, Harmonaut changed or something like that. 2 changes, yeah, 2 changes is a nice idea. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, okay, let's go back to the DXpiano, the changed DXpiano. You remember this absolutely ugly thing? Wow. Nearly Tarpino. So I want it back. I want my old DXpiano back, and so I load the factory bank. I've saved it before, so I load the factory bank, and wow, as you see, here it is. Our good old DXpiano. The global switches are the common ones with a coarse tune and fine tune, portamento and panorama, and the white switch switches between polymode, it's 6-voice polyphony, and mono with polymode when the LED is lit, of course. Every knob, clicking, doing a right click on it, offers MIDI functions, MIDI learn and MIDI unlearn, and some MIDI editing. We won't talk about MIDI editing in this tutorial, but just look at it, the possibilities. Okay. Yes, some knobs offer additional functions here. Panorama, for example, reset to center the sound again. Coarse tune has a range of 3 octaves plus and 3 octaves minus. Okay. and right-clicking on it, you can set the course tune in steps of 1 octave. It's written semitones, but that's nonsense, of course. Let's have a look. Watch the keyboard, listen to the sound. So, listen. And now an octave down on the same key on the keyboard. Fine tune covers a range of plus minus 1 octave, divided into 100 cent. 100 cent minus 100 cent is 1 octave down, plus 100 cent an octave up. Yeah, the difference between C and F sharp are exactly 50 cents, as you see and hear. Okay, and well, let's reset it. The chorus and the filter section don't need any further explanation. So let's have a look at the LFO. There's a speed knob and a knob for the depth of the modulation. The white switch here changes the destination of the modulation. There are cutoff frequencies of the low pass filter and of the high pass filter. There is output amplitude and the oscillator pitch as destination for the modulation. The highest LFO frequency you get with the speed knob turned nearly completely to the left. That's a little bit uncommon. Turning the knob completely to the left switches the LFO off. High speed, slower and slower and slower. Indeed, uncommon. Right-click on the knob offers more options which synchronize the LFO to the host's clock rate. And you can get the LFO running really quite fast by turning the BPM settings of your host up and choosing the option 1/16. And then you achieve the typical amplitude modulation or frequency modulation effects. Amplitude modulation with the LFO switched to volume, and frequency modulation, of course, switched to pitch. Well, let's use a single sine wave now to watch and listen, of course, to the modulation effects using the LFO running high speed. To do so, we use a signal analyzer to show the spectrum of the sound. The spectrum, not the wave. And this signal analyzer is freeware, and you can download it from the page shown below. And more about that you'll find on our web page. All right. So now, let's switch it to amplitude modulation. Yeah, here you see it, and hear it. And now, while turning the depth knob slowly to the right, you see and hear the additional frequencies occur. Typical sidebands of amplitude modulation. And now the complex spectrum of frequency modulation. Well, let's use frequency modulation to change the preset human voice. Pitch, yeah. So, human voice. Okay. is. 1/16. Yeah, alright, let's go for it. Dry signal. It's the dry voice. Oh, it's volume block. No, sorry. Yeah, now. Alright, and now let's use amplitude modulation to change another preset. Let's say funky tone, I think. Let's have a look. Here we are. The dry signal. And now, at least, let's have a look at the main window where Harmonaut creates its sound. Alright, there are 32 sliders controlling and regulating the fundamental, the first one with the lowest frequency, and 31 more sliders for the harmonics. On the right, there are 4 buttons representing the most common basic waveforms: sine wave and saw, triangle and square. Well, you find a lot of things, a lot about additive synthesis and overtones and harmonics when you search the internet, and you may also visit our webpage. But because this is not a general tutorial about additive synthesis, let's put it a very simple way. The fundamental, this here, is the note you play on your keyboard: C, D, F sharp, and so on and so on. Let's play a C. This was a C. Now let's change the sound. The harmonics change the sound, not the tone. So it's the harmonics and their envelopes, of course, what make a violin, for example, sound like a violin. Well, it's not really that simple, but that explanation shall be sufficient for our reason right now. Okay, let's blank everything out to start with a completely empty patch. Set all sliders to 0, attack, decay, and even sustain and release, sustain and release. Of course, when we now hit the key on our keyboard, we don't hear anything. So let's draw a fundamental only. Hit the key and still nothing, because there is no sustain. Every single wave needs a sustain. The sustain knob at the bottom regulates the sustain of the whole sound, but as long as there is not a single sound component, so what is not a single wave can be heard, there isn't anything like a whole sound. So the waves you want to be heard need individual envelopes, at least an individual sustain. So let's add sustain to the fundamental, and now the sound can be heard, but only the fundamental. Yeah, alright, the sound can be heard. Let's hit the key. Yeah, typical sine wave sound. Well, now I'm going to set all sustains to maximum. Let's go to the sustains. Yeah, here. I set them all to maximum. Still, we hear only the fundamental, because we have drawn only the fundamental. And now I add some more harmonics, and you see how the sound changes. And as you hear as well, the sound changes are computed instantly. So you can play sound changes live with your mouse, and let's have an optical response to that. Using Sonogram. You can download Sonogram for free from the web page shown below. And well, yes, let's play a little bit with our mouse. Yeah. All right. Well, a wonderful thing about Harmonaut is that you can give every single harmonic, what is every single component of the sound, an individual envelope with individual attack, decay, sustain and release. Well, let's create now a sound effect of a closing low-pass filter modulated by an envelope where the higher frequencies fade out one after the other. So let's have fundamental, but let's make all frequencies, all waves, all harmonics, but the sustain we put to 0. The sustain of the harmonics we put to 0, and the decay we start at harmonic number 2 because the fundamental shan't vanish, shan't fade out, so make the decay less shorter and shorter and shorter. So the shortest decay means first to fade out, so the frequencies should fade out from a highest frequency down to the longest lasting low ones. Let's try, and let's have a look here at Sonogram 2. Yeah, it's nice to be seen, really. Well, it's wonderfully to be seen, the fading out of the higher frequencies. The highest frequency here, lasting the shortest time, the slower, the more. Okay. And even here down at the signal analyzer. You see it, but it's a hard attack, so let's give the whole sound a little bit of attack. Yeah. Alright, like a slowly closing low-pass filter. Well, now some words about the wave sliders here above and the envelope knobs down below. Both knobs here and sliders don't work linear but exponential. I've measured a little, and I've got graphs like that one. You can download these graphs from our webpage. Below 40% for both knobs and sliders, they don't show any audible or measurable effect anymore. So below 40%, it doesn't matter. Of course, sustain is different. If you have no sustain, the sound fades down to 0. That's clear. But attack and release and even the decay time below 40%, it's not audible anymore, the difference. It's important to understand the relationship between these knobs and here the sliders of the single waves. Let's put it simple again. The envelope sliders over here of the waves regulate the relationship of the individual waves to each other. They determine, for example, which wave occurs first, vanishes first, which second, which shall be the third to occur, and so on and so on. They determine the individual envelopes in relationship to the envelopes of the other harmonics. Whereas the envelope knobs here down below regulate the absolute amount of attack, decay, sustain, and release. Well, alright, we have to talk about the waveform buttons over here now. And let's switch off all harmonics but the fundamental and switch to triangle. We use two instances of signal analyzer, one to show the spectrum and one to show the signal. Well, let's hit a key. And freeze it. Okay, typical triangle wave and the typical spectrum of the triangle wave over here. What's interesting is we have got only a single wave slider activated, and nevertheless we get a lot of, well, at least some harmonics. And now with a turned to triangle wave, every single slider, wave slider here, harmonics slider here, represents not just a single harmonic, as it has when we use the sine wave button. No, now every single slider represents a whole set of harmonics, being typical for the special waveform we have activated. Yeah, let's freeze the spectrum. Well, we have done it already. And let's now change here from signal to spectrum as well and have a look at harmonic number 4. No, only number 4. Well, let's hit a key again. Okay, of course the basic frequency is higher, harmonic number 4. And we have once again a typical spectrum for triangle waves. And now both so now both, and let's activate a third instance for the combined signal. Once again hit the key. Alright, freeze. So, and what we see, what we get is simply the combination or the sum of both spectrums. Here the fundamental, here is the spectrum of the fundamental, here the fourth harmonics slider, and here is the spectrum of the fourth harmonic in a triangle wave, and here the combination. And now let's analyze the origin of the waves. This is the resulting spectrum. This is obviously the basic wave here, and it's coming from the fundamental. It's the fundamental itself. The next here is also coming from the fundamentals spectrum, but that one is not existing in the fundamental spectrum. Here you see there is missing, it's missing, but it's coming from the fourth harmonics, and so on. That one is again coming from above, so from the spectrum of the fundamental, as well as that and that and that one, and this here is missing. We could see it in Zoom, is missing, and it's coming once again from the spectrum from the fourth harmonics, and so on and so on. So what we get is the combination here, and this sound is the combination of the spectrums, of the whole spectrums of both harmonic sliders. All right. But what happens, and then we would get a similar result using, instead of the fourth harmonic, the sixth one, or number 8 or number 10, and so on and so on and so on. It's all the same with the even-numbered harmonics. You get always the same result. It's the combination. But what about the odd-numbered harmonics? So let's at first freeze the spectrum of the fundamental again. And now let's draw the third harmonic and freeze it again. And now both. And freeze. And what we see now is, here is the spectrum of the fundamental, here is the spectrum, the combined spectrum of both the fundamental and the third harmonic, and in the combined spectrum there isn't a single harmonic what isn't already in the fundamental. But some of the harmonics are just louder than above. So let's look at the second harmonic. Here in the combined spectrum, here we have minus 41 and here it's minus 49 dB, so here it's got louder. Well, what has happened? All the harmonics of the third main harmonic here are already members in the spectrum of the basics of the fundamental. Meaning that these harmonics, the whole set of harmonics, the spectrum of the third main harmonic, just contributes loudness to some of these harmonics. What is here? We have it here. You see this one, and this one, this one, and this one. All these harmonics are already in the spectrum of the basic here, basic harmonic, but they get just louder. The same result, I mean the increase of the loudness of some harmonics, we get with sawtooth waves. Doesn't matter whether we add odd or even-numbered harmonics, because sawtooth waves contain all of them. So adding more spectrums means making some already existing harmonics louder. Let's have a look at first the basic. Okay. Let's freeze it. Then let's add, for example, a third harmonic. And you see what happens here. Some are getting louder. Or a fourth harmonic. Let's... Oh, well, we have to... Yeah, here it is. Now, harmonic number 4, and you see it's the same. Some of them are louder here, and that's all. All right, unfreeze it. With square waves here, it should be different, because a regular square wave doesn't have even-numbered harmonics, and adding even-numbered harmonics here to it should change the spectrum remarkably. Unfortunately, Harmonaut square wave is not regular, but it's a pulse wave. There are only some of the even harmonics are missing. In the spectrum, let's have a look at it. So, well, we don't need 3. Okay, let's at first use the square wave. We have it already. And now let's have a look at the waveform. And as you see, it's a pulse wave. Yeah, it's not regular. This is a short pulse and this is a longer one. Okay, well, and you see 250, 500, it's an even numbered, 750 odd numbered, and then this one is missing at least. Okay, so let's add number 4 here, harmonic number 4. Oh, sorry, I have to change to spectrum. And here you see the missing wave at 1000 Hertz is in the combined spectrum now. All right. Okay. It's also a pity, at least, that Harmonaut doesn't have a function to add some single harmonics, really single harmonics, what is single sine waves, to the complex spectrum of, for example, a triangle wave. Let's go to a triangle. Here we are, and it would be really nice to have possibilities to add here or both single sine waves to it, and not just, as we already know, the whole set of waves. But unfortunately, this function is missing in Harmonaut. Otherwise, I like this little freeware set, really. Okay, that's it. Done for now. In the second Harmonaut tutorial, we are going to hear more sound and a little less of theory, as we are going to construct sounds for purpose. You know, we are building sounds from other synthesizers as well. We are building sounds we have only in our brain at first, and then realize them with Harmonaut. So watch that second tutorial to come, and as well as all our future ones. Well, okay, but most important, of course, enjoy making sounds and music, and, well, so long.